It's story time. 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 All right, so episode 1 of this Journey Through PEI. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you lending an ear. Means a lot. I'm doing this mostly just to jot things down for myself about the journey, to make sense of where I'm at and where I'm going with all of this, because it's kind of piled up on me. But I really do appreciate anyone else that has any sort of interest in this journey, or wants to, pick at my brain a little bit as an artist, to help with your own journey and make sense of maybe things you haven't thought of before. But yeah, this is going to be the first episode. We're going to be shaking off some jitters, figuring out a flow, how much I really want to say, where to start. I've never done anything like this, so this should be pretty interesting for me. It might be full of rants and rambles. I'll be a rambling Rose over here, so bear with me. But basically, this is where I am right now as an artist. This piece that we're looking at, it's pretty chaotic. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things falling apart. There's a lot of boundary suggestion. There's a lot of toxicity, vanity, a lot of respect for the past, and is the word innuendo? Innuendos for the future, or foreshadowing symbols. Anticipating things still left to hatch. But I'm leading into this piece that's coming next that kind of requires me to feel my way through the paths that I've been walking all this time, primarily with my eyes. I kind of want to take my blind man's stick and rub the ground of this body of work to get a better look, ironically, a better look at where I've been walking. I feel like I've been blind this whole time at this point. It may not seem that way, but at this point for me, I feel like I need to feel my way through and trace my steps in a different state of mind so that I have a better idea of where I am, why I got here, and how I want to proceed. So that being said, I kind of want to start somewhere in the beginning of this journey. It may not make any sense, that you might not see a correlation, but hopefully I can fill the gaps between then and now. We'll talk more about this piece in due time, but I kind of want to start this journey of excavation at this one drawing I did when I was really discovering myself through pencil. Well, this is actually the beginning of the journey to where that piece was you just saw, and we'll get to that in just a second. But it was this piece right here that I began to question. Jesus Christ. I began to question my identity. And in light of that questioning, I was breaking myself apart into pieces. I was, I guess, in this state of reflection, thinking about how many versions of myself I had to be to get to where I should be to make this conceptual exchange between me, the artist, and anyone as the viewer. How was I going to translate this? I mean, you know how it is. How do you even begin to explain yourself without tapping into all the various reasons you are who you are, and how many different versions of yourself you must be in order to be yourself or selves. And not only be yourself, but be yourself with an intent, whether it's maybe a cliche yin and a cliche yang, the duality of yourself and yourselves. Not only do you break yourself apart into all these different versions of yourself, but with each version there is a conflicting self, a self that you combat with, or you compare to, or you argue with, or you just reflect on as you're making one choice. Should I, could I, would I do this instead? So it was in this drawing that I really wanted to understand myself. Before this, I was just, what was I think 20, maybe 19, I think 20 when I made this drawing. It's about 6 feet wide. And I was dating someone I won't mention for the sake of privacy. And prior to her, I was just kind of dating around and almost like who's my mother, where's my mother, or whatever that syndrome is where you're trying to find the partner that complements your parenting style. The where's my mother syndrome. And I'm glad to be where I am now, which we'll go into later. But I was kind of just learning through several relationships prior to her. She was kind of a catalyst for a big change. I think that's why she is stepping through this doorway to suggest something coming that I'm not seeing in my blind spot. I feel like every person that enters your life is inviting something that you're not aware of, but you sure as hell will be. And so yeah, she was a major part in making me wonder what I've been doing all this time. Why was I such a psychedelic mess? Why was my mind scattered? Why was I so entropic? Why why did I do what I do? Why am I this way? Why do I even have to draw? Why do I express myself this way? And before this, I was just, having fun for the sake of being here for what felt like the first time. And even doing this piece was a blast. But in this piece, I kept pausing and thinking, wait, what am I doing? Wait, why am I doing this? Who are these people? They didn't even feel like me. They felt like just reflections of the multifaceted gem that is identity. And also, why did I feel so separate from my dualities? Why couldn't they fill this gap? Why couldn't they team up to protect the purpose? Why was one looking down? Why was one looking up in an ironic state of being? This is supposed to be my positivity, and why is he pondering below? This is my negativity. Why is he looking towards the sky? It's like my negativity has so much to share with my positivity, and my positivity has so much to relate to and empathize with my negativity. So yeah, I got to this point in drawing, and I also saw my capabilities kind of culminating to a point where, wow, I think I can express these complex ideas in my head. I'm not just drawing comic characters or drawing portraits of people or even just drawing my cat or painting or, bombing the block as a graffiti artist, just trying to figure out my hand style. I have done enough on this plane to express myself with more accuracy. Not just to accurately draw someone, but to draw the idea of my dualistic self and my scattered being and the many-faced God that is identity. I felt like I had a good platform to build a staircase to recognizing myself through my art at this point. This was not a catalyst, but a harbinger of what was to come. And it's funny, I'm at this point now where I recognize like the exchange that I am having with my viewers, with my supporters, with my clients, with my customers, with my just supporters. This exchange, it's like this is the focal point. This is the most important part. What am I giving or receiving from this relationship that I have with another, with my community, and with myself? What am I exchanging? your purpose is kind of where you're going with all of this. I actually, oh wow, I was wearing these pants today. That's so wild. Synchronicity. We'll talk more about that later, but they're passing a roach too. They're passing something that, in retrospect, not only is it the smallest thing visually, but it's the most insignificant part of a sesh, but also the most important hint that you shared something special up until that point. To be left with so little illuminates both parties that life had been experienced. That this little roach stood for so much that was shared, and you almost want to maintain that relationship with another person. Like, no, we can keep smoking. We can keep smoking. There's still a hit left. And I'm kind of at this point too where I'm at this stage in my art, my process, my series, where I am thinking how much of this joint is left. And I'm also thinking I may have smoked this joint up until the last cherry. But does that mean I need to break up some new buds, metaphorically speaking? Because I'm sober these days. Do I need to break up some new buds and roll up a new doobie of intent, of purpose, of vision for what I plan to share with my community next? Like, I'm at this point where I realize I need to put this joint down, recognize I'm at this point, this breaking point where I can't smoke anymore without reflecting on the experience and the high, and seeing whether I want to smoke again, when, why, how, and with what, and with who. Who do I want to exchange? It's ironic that the person in this picture is someone, first of all, that I don't smoke with, or that I don't engage with anymore. He is someone that absolutely betrayed me on levels I will never discuss on this series. But that alone makes me really wonder who I'm exchanging my values with. Who am I sharing my purpose with? Are they, not in a sense of betrayal, but are they taking me for granted, my generosity? Who out there really sees what I have to give and truly receives it with not in an egotistical way, but in a respectful way? They see what I've put into this and why I could sit here and smoke all this on my own, but I want to share, to pass along the high, metaphorically speaking. It's making me really question who's out there, and also who am I to share myself? What makes me feel like this is something my community needs? And that also comes from not knowing whether I can trust myself, trust my community, trust the exchange, trust my medium. And yeah. It's also funny, I lost this drawing at a moment in my life outside of art where I didn't know who to trust among my friends. I was at a breaking point in my life where I had to decide to risk the biscuit and trust those who were with me, or recognize that I was about to get screwed the hell over and drop it all and move elsewhere. And I was also in a relationship that I had to question whether there was anything salvageable from that intimate relationship. I had to drop occupation. I had to drop my family of friends. I had to drop officially a relationship. I had to drop a style of working to make this move, literal move across the country, all for the sake of self-preservation. Because if I kept trusting those who were untrustworthy, I would have been, honestly, I'd probably be in jail right now. But we don't need to go into that. And not for anything wrong, for things that are unfortunately seen as illegal. But yeah, all that on a metaphorical level makes me wonder whether the relationship that I have with my art and with my community and my viewers and my own occupation and whatever, with all the stuff that's going on right now, like, am I at a point where I drop it, or should I just see it through? So this is also why I'm looking back at my roots, because history repeats itself on maybe on the equivalent level or an evolved level, and it's important to see what you gained and what you lost in the process of pursuing and letting go. And yeah, I feel like this exchange, this duality, is a great place to start, and also the atmosphere of this relationship that I was in with myself and my friends really says a lot about my relationship with my art right now and my life. So from here, we travel to my world of fabric. This was when I really I was oof. So I was still dating the girl that I mentioned in that last piece. And relationships can be very dramatic, pretty stressful. There's a lot at stake. A lot that you need to be 100% there for, and concrete and stable, mentally, physically, emotionally. And during that relationship, while I was also in college, I felt like I was juggling a lot in terms of maturity, and I needed a place to take these conflicting, multifaceted like levels of myself and give it a spot to explore without it needing to be anything. And like I said before, I drew people and landscapes and nature and animals, and I drew from life, and life is what it is, and relationships are what they are. You need to be there for them, and school is what it is. You need to do the assignments. You need to listen to the teacher. There's requirements. There's expectations. So it was around this series that I was looking for an outlet to explore. And it wasn't until I was having a good old time with a group of friends in college. I lived with a few roommates that, we would explore. All of us that we lived there, we all explored alternate states of consciousness, through middle school, high school, and into college. So living with each other was fitting for all of us to continue exploring ourselves. And while I was in a conflicted state, I probably just had an argument with my intimate other, my significant other. I decided to leave this place with them, and I won't be specific for now, but I entered a different dimension of mind and spirit, and was inhaling a balloon at the time after just packing some for the friends of mine. And I was delirious and completely out of my body, and decided, you know what, I'm going to stand up and see where I go without any control of my corporeal being. I was in a weird place. And I found a t-shirt on the floor. What I thought was my cat, Meowgie, at the time. He was 2 years old. And he would sleep curled up all over. And he had 3 other rooms to sleep in. So I assumed that this t-shirt that was left on the floor was my cat. Couldn't have been anything else. And to be funny to my group of friends, I picked up this cat, which was actually a shirt. And, I wasn't feeling weight. You don't feel the weight of the situation. You don't feel the weight of your body. You don't feel the weight of what you're holding. You're just going through the motions. And I didn't realize until that t-shirt was spreading thin in between both hands that at first I thought it was my cat stretching and falling apart, and I was on the verge of tears. But then a friend of mine was like, hey, what are you doing with that shirt? And it broke me out of this trance. And I was like, dude, I thought it was Meowgie. I thought it was my cat. And for the rest of the night, they were laughing at the whole situation. It was another, hijinks of, entering these states of mind. It was just another hijinks. But to me, it was my breaking point. I was like, dude, you think you know. You could be sober as, what is sobriety? But you think you know. And then what you thought you knew falls apart and becomes something else, but at the same time makes you realize that it could have been all things at once, almost like a Schrodinger cat. Nothing is what it is until you fully realize or fully actualize it. So it wasn't my cat, it wasn't a shirt, it could have been anything that I was picking up in that place. And that experience was the perfect distraction from my worries at the time. And I popped a few more whippets and packed a few more bowls and hit up my significant other and made up with her, and you have everything else going on in your head to be like, okay, yeah, that was crazy, but let's settle down and figure out everything going on tonight so I can go to sleep without a heavy head on my shoulders. But throughout the night, regardless of whether I was watching this or that with her, or whether a friend was still cracking a joke because they couldn't go to sleep, I was thinking about this t-shirt, which I kept with me for the rest of the night. It was like one of those things, like almost like a safety blanket that I would just fidget with for the rest of the night. So I had it in my room, and my girlfriend at the time didn't know I was, still tripping or whatever. She just thought I was stoned. It's pretty good at hiding my mentality from others, and later down the line that kind of bit me in the butt. But I would occasionally glance in a still delirious state at this t-shirt, and I would see, even though I wasn't like peeking or anything, I would see these things form, kind of like looking at a rose from a distance, and barely seeing that rose, but you could still make out that it was a rose. But it was a t-shirt, and the t-shirt wasn't a t-shirt as you would expect it, like in a child drawing where it's like a T with arms and a body in it, and it's all laid out flat. That t-shirt was a crumple of space and time. That t-shirt was potential energy. I almost want to say potential energy illuminating at me. Pi. P-E-I. And I would like get up. I remember I would go to the bathroom and kick the t-shirt over on my way back. And then lay on the bed, cuddle up, and then glance at this shirt again, and it was different. The shirt had changed. And sideline, this will lead up to that colorful illustration eventually. But all of this is really important in how I perceive these final products that I make nowadays. This obscure perspective, point of view, how many different levels these things have to me, and the irony of my intent with these designs. We'll get into that later once we get into the illustrative parts. But for now, it's important that you guys understand, and that I understand, that it was this t-shirt and me thinking this t-shirt me thinking it was my cat that really was the catalyst for what I wanted to explore as an artist. And not only to explore, but to continue honing my skills, my technique. And not only honing it, but channeling my technique into what could actually be more than just drawing from life, which is just a student's mentality. Student state of mind is to draw from life. So the following morning, I send off my significant other. She goes to class. I have class later or something. And I spend that morning with a t-shirt on my bed and a lamp, just a cheap college lamp, pointing at my bed. And I spend time just folding and refolding and folding and scrunching and unfolding and refolding and folding and scrunching and unfolding and refolding and folding and scrunching, and intermittently changing the source of light. so that even in one position that I scrunched it all in, when you change the light, any artist would tell you it's a different reference. And I got lost in that. And with that high still going strong, a lot of people say, "Oh, what you see while you're in an altered state of mind, it's hard to fish it and reel it back in. The next day, you you let go and you focus on what's really important, and that's the school, the family, the friends, the relationship, and eating well." And I managed all that, so to speak, until things blew up. But I I managed that, but also walked the line with exploring these very ambiguous forms and letting this be not more than an obsession, but a passion of consciousness. Like this t-shirt reflected, like I sympathized with the nature of this t-shirt and how many different versions of itself it could be. But it was all the same t-shirt. Like, it was inside out, and it had the same pattern inside out. Same tag, same collar. But when life did something new to it, it would become a different thing. And I felt like when life did something new to me, it would unfold me and scrunch me up again, cast a new light, and I was that. I would be seen differently from anyone else, and I could have 8 people surrounding me, and they would all be seeing a different t-shirt, a different personality, a different me. But I knew I was the t-shirt. I knew I was me. But that me was many things. So with that is what I carried, like that realization that I carried in with my states of duality that I already realized in a previous piece. I decided to try to replicate that dualistic exchange in oddly a more realistic fashion. Like, you would think that last piece with the people in it was realism because I was drawing people, and maybe surrealism because I was drawing people stacked on top of each other in a way that was impossible. But still, like, it's realistic. But this felt, the process towards completing this and the end result felt more accurate to what I was trying to not just wrap my mind around, but I was trying to understand and express to the people around me how I felt. So whether anyone was going to understand it at the moment didn't matter. I had faith that eventually this would wind up speaking for me. And I've never been much of a writer. I'm not great with words. This whole verbal exchange series podcast, for lack of a better word, is me trying to find the words for the first real time, without being cut off by someone or seeing someone glazed over, saying like, you're trippy, or whatever thing that waves me off. Like, I never really feel like I have a place to express myself entirely with words. So I knew that this was eventually going to make sense to somebody. Eventually it was going to make sense to me in a way that I can share the words to define this. Maybe it's not necessary, but at this stage I feel like it is for me. Maybe not for others. Maybe others are out there and they're like, no, I get you, bro. Like, I see you. And what I see speaks for 1,000 words, whatever that cliche is. What, every picture has 1,000 words? But this is a picture with pictures with pictures with pictures in the pictures. And then there's a bigger picture. And then there's every angle of that picture. So it's the words, I'm going to be speaking on this forever. So I took that shirt, and with the same pencil that I drew the various versions of myself and that old friend at the time, and also my little kitty at the bottom of that previous piece, I decided to venture on trying to capture all the different angles that I was witnessing this t-shirt become. Like, I would tell somebody, oh, if you like give it a shot, like, you could see so much. Like, everyone's watching. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was watching, Adventure Time or whatever, Chowder, whatever was going on. Like I was watching shit too, but I was like, dude, I would spend a couple hours just moving the shirt around, and I was equally, if not more, entertained by the abilities of this shirt, and also my openness to see it for what it could and what it could be on so many levels. And I felt like people were looking at me like I was insane. And maybe I was, so to speak, because I didn't really know what to do with this. But I just had to figure it out. I just had to figure it out through study, through experimentation, and paperwork. Unfortunately, I had to do some paperwork. So I started here and worked my way across, and then, spiraled in. And as I spiraled in, I was honing my skills. I was understanding how versatile the fabric could be, and how to instigate depth and create shadow, and make the shirt itself become this larger form with that one shirt as the source. The one shirt was never all of this, but it was all these different forms eventually accumulating all of this. Kind of like you become many different parts of yourself, and then eventually you reminisce, and it's your scrapbook of yourself. And almost what I'm doing now, like looking back, I'm seeing the bigger picture, that spiral, that Fibonacci of my evolution and transformations, and I'm seeing a bigger picture. I'm seeing this, but for my whole body of work right now, and I'm starting over here, metaphorically. This is this bigger piece. This first t-shirt that I studied is this first larger piece that I completed as a whole. But yeah. So as I was working on this piece, I would start looking for different things, like even sexual, like a vagina with like a clitoris type shape, or a sail with waves, or a hood with eyes and a mouth, a misshapen nose, or like almost like a skull, like behind mountainous textures, or like stones, or like jagged, what are those called? Arrowheads, and I remember seeing at a time this gecko with its eye and its arm here and a leg and then a tail kind of spiraling here and then this heart forming in the center of that gecko. And I wasn't even making this larger bear-like, teddy bear-like figure. I started here and I was just drawing for the sake of drawing this t-shirt, and I just wanted to keep drawing it and compare one to the next on like this wave. And I just wanted to keep experimenting, and I had one piece of paper, and I didn't want to use a sketchbook because sketchbooks are uncomfortable, and it's also funny, I did this, that same bed that I was just taking that t-shirt and crumpling it and crumpling and recrumpling it, I kept the t-shirt on that bed throughout the whole process of this. I would sleep and wake up and the t-shirt would be in a new form, and I would take that and move, like I would probably be kicking it in my sleep, working in my dreams, and start the next day, and I would be drawing on a masonite board with this drawing, this piece of paper on top of that masonite board, and I'd be leaning over my bed as the desk and be moving this t-shirt on that same bed. It never, like, I think maybe it hit the floor once or twice, but I did all of this on my bed. I didn't have a desk. I just had a purpose and a passion for expressing this in some way, however I had to. So, also in the midst, I had a fushigi ball that was like a fidget, and I threw the fushigi in there because I was like, ooh, I wonder what would happen if I observed this same fold that would reflect in this elliptical way, this distorted way. And then not only did I see the distortion in the fushigi ball, which is a reflective skill cognitive toy, but I also saw myself inside the bounds of the fabric. I was like, oh fuck. It's too late for me. I am encompassed in this. And by this point it was gone. I was off to see the gecko. Also, as I ended up doing this first ear, I didn't really know where this was going to go. I did this first ear, and then I was like, oh, I kind of want to make this symmetrical. And I worked my way across. This is probably 7 shirts in one segment. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this symmetrical. I'm going to try and replicate another ear of the same size, but a different shape, and work my way into this segment here. And I got to this point, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the fushigi ball again as well. Even though the fushigi ball was hell, and drawing that circle within the folds was hell, and like these are my first real times drawing fabric to such a degree. I think before that I drew the standard art school cloth on a chair study. So I was still working the kinks out. I was like, you know what, whatever. I'll try and do this, and I'll try to make sure they line up. And this is all freehand, no rulers. I was just like trying to work with the folds. And it was at this point that I was like, oh man, I think I'm making a face. So let's continue to spiral down. And I went down like this staircase visually, and also was starting to think about, like, I was like, oh, maybe I should throw in some of the striations of the collars and, like, you know, give that a shot. I was starting to look at the t-shirt closely. I was like, wow, there's more texture to this. There's more little folds within the folds. And it just started really just breaking apart. And I would keep going in and out from seeing the bigger picture to the smaller pictures, and then the pictures within the pictures, and I keep seeing these hooded figures, like here with the nose and the eye and like the hood covering part of the face, and just random things like that. And would forget that I was even drawing a t-shirt. I was totally immersed in the potential. But also I had to maintain some sort of semblance of reality because I was drawing these things. I had to put it down on paper. I couldn't just see it all. I was like, all right, like cool, like, but also seeing the things made me draw the things more so than drawing the t-shirt. Like I was drawing both simultaneously, and then would come in and out and be half the time drawing the t-shirt and then see a figure in it and then be drawing the figure and then remember while drawing the figure that I'm drawing a t-shirt, and then my mind would be blown. Like moments like this where there's like a nose and there's like a woman with her hair and like her ear and just like her hair draped down. And then I'd have moments in my life, because this wasn't all in one day. I'd have moments in my life where I would see someone and see this figure and things like that in my life and be like, wow, like what is the connection there? Like, should I even think that far? Like, am I gonna lose my mind in this? Like, am I self-manifesting or reverse? I don't know. Like, even you'll see this dog that's folded up here, kind of curled up in bed with its droopy ears. It wasn't until a couple years later that I had met this dog, who was a friend of mine, and he was someone that I tripped a couple times with, and we would smoke a little bit, and his dog would just be folded up next to him. And then I didn't tell him at the time, but I would look at this dog and be like, I swear I've seen you. And then it wasn't until I had graduated that I recognized this dog as that friend's dog. And I was like, wait, what the hell? What did I draw? Where was I really? What was that t-shirt? Who the hell am I right now? And I think it's funny that at a certain point, while I was in the middle of this project, I put my little pointer finger poking out of the center of the spiral, like I was seeing all of this. I was losing myself in all of this, but also finding myself in all of this. But the only way to manage my sanity was to try to peek a little part of myself through. And even if it was just a little digit, I had to retain my sanity while doing all of this. And I don't know, it was a wild journey. But after completing this piece, learning how to control the pencil to this scale and how to work with the t-shirt in a way that it was more than a t-shirt, it was more of a sculpting medium. I really saw where this could go, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do another one, but I'm really going to play off this symmetry, and I'm going to take it to the next level and just expand on this experience with the shirt, see how many more shirts I could draw. I knew it was infinite, but I needed to show everybody else how many versions of this shirt could be seen. And when put together in a state of recollection, what I was seeing as a whole, like the potential of what this could be. And one of the crazier things about this is, you go through art school and you're painting, and you could paint over, and graphite pencil you can erase, and like clay you can crumble back up and reform. With this style, I could not erase. Color pencil is not something you want to erase. It will smudge and smear. It is not eraser friendly. So when I would do these things, it was like a leap of faith. Not only materially, but also my sanity. I was like, you know what? I'm jumping in. Head first. I'm going to poke my finger out whenever I get a chance, but head first. There's no turning back. And I like that idea of drawing without the ability to go back. So this entire thing was drawn without the ability to erase. I just trusted that what I was drawing was meant to be there, and that was that. Also, this waterfall pouring out, unintentional, but it just started growing. Like I just like the different things splashing and or a whirlpool. It was intended. I was kind of trying to do a whirlpool, and then that whirlpool became a dog. But just like I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna. I'm just thinking. It doesn't matter what I have to go through. This is well worth it. I'm totally head over heels. And honestly, let me tell you, my significant other at the time did not enjoy how much more I would look at this t-shirt than I would look at her. And this is a theme that haunts me to this day, is my my obsession with this body of work, regardless of who I may be intimately involved with. The work that I have to do is sometimes more passionate, and I follow the passion. And as much as I would love like a relationship, it would need. I've learned over time, like it just needs to reflect that passion. And I may be in a curse where that might never exist, and I may need to accept the more mundane. But after you see something like this and you work through it, you know that there's more that's possible. Maybe not in this life, but with patience and faith and perseverance, you can find people in your life that completely resonate with your purpose, resonate with your state of mind, with your life experiences, and if not resonate, at least reflect, like fill in the gaps on equivalent levels. Like in order to do something like this, you leave just as big of a void as you filled, and that person has a void that needs to be filled with all of this. And what they lacked, they gained in something that I neglected for the sake of this, and I recognize that. But there were moments in my life, especially here, that I began to struggle balancing all of this. I said earlier on that I walked a fine line to balance my day-to-day activities and expectations and this pursuit of self-reflection and studying the fabric of space and time. And it's wild to look back at this piece so in depth now. It's here, it's in my life. I don't give these away. So I have very nuanced glances of these pieces. I'm always stuck in the moment, and I've strived to be in the now. As cliche as that sounds, is I love to be here in the moment. But looking at this, and it's like I'm right there on my bed in that old apartment with wild friends, people partying all the time, and I'm surrounded by that energy while I'm looking at this. I'm kind of like a little anxious. Like all my feelings of at the time regret or depression or passion or confusion, it like is leaking out of this piece. I'm almost excited to move forward to the next piece, to continue to evolve with the past and catch up to my present and almost get a refill of all of this. Because sometimes you get so involved in the moment that you forget. And people say it's good to do this, but you forget who you were, how you got here. And they say, "Oh, don't look at your past. Like, don't get caught up in your past." But there's like right now there's so much to gain from this for me. And I hope it's the same for you guys. Like if you're out there observing this, there's a lot that even I haven't seen that I'm not only like I'm not only remembering, but there's new things in my new current state of mind I'm able to see anew. And I feel like a lot of people out there that may be seeing this now are like, wait, whoa, where the heck has this been? And that's kind of how I felt about the t-shirt in general. I was like, dude, I've been wearing this the whole time. And it's like every t-shirt has become this potential energy for me. That's kind of why I will talk more about it later on, but why t-shirts, making my work on t-shirts is so important for me. It starts with this. And also finding balance. That's why this piece it's a lot of these started with a symmetry, but also a recognition for asymmetry. Like nothing is perfectly symmetrical. There's always some level of asymmetry or imbalance, but all of it collectively balance each other out. You need to have faith in that. But I'm gonna keep this episode pretty short. I don't know how long I'm gonna do these for, like how long each episode's gonna be. But I think an hour is a good place to start. I don't want to overwhelm anybody with my rants and rambles. And as we move on to the next pieces, the discussion is only going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So let's end this with this piece, and you'll have to imagine where we're going to go, and maybe think about what I said and where it might relate in your own life, whatever stage of your life you're at. But that being said, if anyone is listening and on any level does want to support me as an artist, kind of feed the flame, I'm going to be putting my website on the video bio. I hope to put a link in the bio for this video, the description of this video, so that you can either jump in and snag a t-shirt or see where I'm at now, and maybe grab some clay work or whatever, ask for a poster, yada yada. But that's going to be there always. I'm going to try to keep putting that link on the description. So if there's ever a moment where you're like, hey, I see you, I feel you, I resonate, I want to pass this along, I make work that tries to embody these intentions so that others can incorporate it into their own life and not spread the message, but expand the vibe and put out the intention, whether it's unspoken or whatnot, but it's infused. Everything that I'm going to be talking about is infused in everything that I make now, and I make things to be carried now, not just hung up on a wall. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I'm definitely going to do this more. It was cathartic to just lay this on the line, pun intended. I hope to kind of spiral back out with all of these episodes. But all right. I'll hopefully get better at these exit routes. But I appreciate you getting this far. You really didn't have to, but if you did, that means that I spoke to something in you. We had a conversation, whether you were responding in your mind or just listening. And I hope to see you guys during my next episode, where we will discuss where this piece went in the next, on the next level of this series of fabric of space and time, the folds. Yeah, have a good day, have a good night, and have a good time in general. Love you guys.